Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel, like the video.
Also, check out our podcast below. Haberman, that's him. Middlecoff, that's me. Subscribe.
Raiders first round, they had two picks, John. Number 12, number 19. They used them both. Wide receiver, corner. Let's start with the wide receiver. Henry Ruggs, 5'11", 4.27 40, fastest at the combine. Everybody says Al Davis would love this pick. You agree?
Well, I mean, Guy, he looks like Michael Jordan meets Russell Westbrook. Who is this guy? I mean, could this guy have been in the NBA? Absolute freak show. So to me, when you see that, the explosive athleticism, to me, basketball is always a big indicator when it comes to athletes. This guy clearly excels. We saw the highlights last night. The guy that went above Ruggs in Becton basketball highlights. Whenever you're dunking, especially a small guy like that, woo-wee, and then you run that fast, clearly a really skilled player. Kind of, I wouldn't say the lost guy, but Ruggs and Waddle from a wide receiver standpoint get talked about more. This guy, not gimmicky, but just the way he was used at Alabama, can take slants to the house, can take deep bombs. Really just one of the more explosive players we've seen in recent memory come into the NFL.
You meant Judy and Waddle get talked about more. So Judy,
Yeah, Judy and Waddle, just because their overall skill sets, just more consistent wide receivers.
what's interesting now for Ruggs, it's not like him and Judy were the only guys that went. CeeDee Lamb, we talk all this time. 6 receivers went in the first round. Raiders got the first pick. I don't know if that puts pressure on Ruggs necessarily, but I think it'll make it easy for everybody who wants to evaluate all these different receivers that went. They're all going to get compared to one another. And for him, he is going to carry a lot of the load, just given that I think, I don't know if he'll have the number one corner on him every game, but he will just have a lot of attention on him.
Yeah, to me, he'll 100% have the number one corner on him. He's going to get a lot of attention. I mean, he by far, beside the tight end in Waller, is their most, explosive and potent wide receiving threat, and he should be. I mean, anytime you go number 12 overall in the NFL draft, there are going to be huge expectations on him. When you look at guys in recent memory, a little different, but also a little similar. Brandon Cooks, who went in the teens several years ago, that was just a speed demon and really kind of became, I know concussions have derailed his career a little bit, but a pretty complete player, right? I mean, had the deep threat, but also could run routes and was really successful for the Saints and for the Patriots, and even had some moments for the Rams too. I think that's ultimately, you kind of ease Ruggs in, just run the go route, stretch the field, kind of spread open the offense. But when you draft a guy this high, you want him to become a complete player. Like, part of what made Deshaun so dynamic, right? He could take the top off the cup, but he could also do everything. End arounds, quick slants to the house, a 3rd and 10, run a deep comeback and get me a first down. They're going to be depending on this guy to do everything. The one thing I've heard, though, the one thing I consistently heard, and I tweeted it last night, this was the dude in that room. And this is a room, Judy went 15. I think both guys next year go in the top 15. You're talking about not 4 first-round picks, 4 top 15 picks in back-to-back years. This guy was the leader. And this guy is kind of, when you look at Mayock's draft now the last 2 years, fits that mold. All football, all toughness, whatever it takes, leadership, character. This guy
college
fits that
production.
mold. Yeah, big program, big moments.
Well, the next guy they drafted at 19, this one left a lot of people scratching their heads. And he does fit some of that profile, right? Big program. Some differing opinions. PFF Mike tweeted he's old, he's slow, he has short arms. Regardless of what you think of the tape, that is not the physical profile you see drafted in round 1. Raiders with the most surprising round 1 pick for the 2nd straight year, referencing Cleveland Ferrell. Our boy Dustin Fox, played at Ohio State, played in the NFL, said he got a text from an NFL coach who said Damon Arnette's a top 10 player in this draft. Looked like the Raiders got a steal. I left the reply in. The guy says the analyst had him as the 10th best corner, not a top 10 pick. So there's a lot of disparity there. PFF said he had the best passer rating against, as in he did the best job in single coverage in this draft class. And you got a positive review from somebody around the league, a bigger Malcolm Butler. So, I don't think the debate right now is whether they got a starter. The debate is whether or not they had to use the 19th pick to get him.
Yeah, I think there's several angles here, Guy. Most teams I talk to had this guy in the early to mid second round pick, and the Raiders don't have a second round pick, so it's not that crazy. To me, there are differences with Cleveland in 2018. I guess it would have been 2019. Is that Cleveland was going to go in the first round, right? People thought he would go in the teens or the early 20s. They just took him at 4 overall. I think the head-scratching thing with this is when you take a guy that no one believed was going to go in the first round, that can be a head-scratcher. And the value, I think, ideally, like Farrell, that Mayock talked about, ideally they wanted to trade back. It takes 2 to tango. No one was going to trade back with them. So you take this guy, at least Cleveland, you talk about a guy with just enormous. He's 6'5". He's got long arms. Now, does he have the twitch and the athletic ability? And that's where people go, he's never going to be an impact guy because he's not twitchy enough. He can't bend. I think when you look at corners, when you're not twitchy and you can't really run, it limits your ability. A bigger Malcolm Butler. If memory serves me correct, Malcolm Butler was an undrafted free agent. Now, he became a solid player. He got big money in Tennessee. Hasn't really lived up to the hype. When you can't run, and it's all relative, like you and I can't run, but when you're a 4-5 guy at corner, most wide receivers, like how do you run with Henry Ruggs? How do you run with Jerry Jeudy? How do you run with Brandon Ayuk? How do you run with some of these guys?
It's a great call, John. I would imagine there'll be some practice video if these guys are matched up. Now, I know Ruggs is the extreme example of speed, but the question we have is, can the Raiders' 19th pick cover their 12th pick?
Well, think about their division. Well, who do you play? You play Kansas City twice.
Tyreek.
What do they have? Guys that can haul ass. What did the Denver Broncos just add last night?
Jerry
I don't
Jeudy.
know, a guy that's pretty fast. You could say, okay, the Chargers. To me, he's actually a good matchup for the Chargers. They got bigger, physical, slower wide receivers. So, yeah, some teams he'll match up fine against. Now, they really value intensity, clearly like a Ruggs, the way you kind of read it, and just talking to my buddies that do the SEC, his football character, extremely high, very competitiveness. But there's a balance. Farrell had this too. I love football. I'm a team captain. But once you get to the NFL, like if you just don't have the physical characteristics and then you have this kind of thing hanging over your head that you're a first-round pick, are you going to be a first-round pick? Think of the last couple corners they've drafted in the first round. Different era, different administration. DJ Hayden and Garyon Conley.
Yeah.
Those guys, you could argue that's the opposite. Both those guys were way faster, better athletic, explosive skills, and they just couldn't get it done. It's overall, it's a very, very tough position to evaluate and to draft, right? We talk all the time about how there are a lot of wide receiver busts. There are a ton, of corner busts or guys that just never come close to living up to where they were drafted.
One thing we haven't seen from the Raiders now under Mayock and Gruden in their drafts, we haven't seen them pick with only one first-rounder. We've seen them pick with 3 first-rounders and with 2 first-rounders. I don't know. I wonder if they would pick any differently if they only had 1 pick. When you have multiple picks, are you more inclined to say, forget it, I know it's not great value, but I just want this guy, I'm going to take this guy, and the beauty is we already had another pick or another 2 picks, so it doesn't really not that it doesn't matter, but I'm just more comfortable taking our guy and getting out of this round as opposed to maybe taking a bigger swing if you only have one pick. I don't know. That seems counterintuitive. You'd think you'd take bigger swings if you had multiple picks, but maybe Ruggs was that big swing.
Yeah, to me, the Ruggs was going in the top 15. Like I like that pick. I mean, everyone likes it, but he's a really good player. I think this pick with Arnette, like Cleveland last year, anything else than a pretty impactful starter feels like a miss, right? Like this guy, if he's just a good starter, you feel good. I don't think he's got to
be pretty impactful. I think he's got to be just the no-brainer starter at cornerback for you, right? Just solid no-brainer.
You agree him and Cleveland both need to be no-brainer starter. Anything less is a disaster.
Well,
definitely with Cleveland because he was the 4th pick.
But to
this
me,
too, though, guy, because they passed on a lot of good players.
Well, I said there were 6 receivers. There were 2 corners went after him in the first round. Now they went later.
We're gonna get some corners. We're gonna get some corners going early here in the second round. Yeah. So again, though, they were showing the value. It wasn't about value. We thought this guy was our best guy on our board. That's what they're showing. Yep. So yeah, I'm not even factoring in where the guy went or whatever. You were going to take a corner. Okay, you can do that. Well, you're now picking this corner over 2 or 3 other guys that good teams, the Vikings valued, that other teams valued. We'll see.
But we know
because
just to your point, we know this. If he's a solid starter, we won't talk about value because the odds are one of the 2 guys that got drafted at 30 and 31 is not going to be. It's just the odds are one of them will just not be that good. Maybe both of them.
100%. 100%.
All right.
I'm in agreement there.
Let us know what you think of the Raiders' first-round picks in the comments below. And again, hit this video with a thumbs up.